Hello there, I'm Charlie. Welcome to the programme. So first tonight, for years it's been dismissed as a far-fetched fantasy. But now it seems there's serious consideration being given to linking Guernsey, Jersey and France by an undersea tunnel. The group behind the plans has been trying to persuade business leaders and politicians to support the idea, which some estimates suggest could cost £2.5 billion. They say a permanent connection to Normandy could go a long way to solving the housing crisis and staff shortages. But as Charlie Lenore reports, others remain sceptical.
Before it was just a concept, whereas now you think that this could actually work.
It's all rubbish. Mickey Mouse government, I don't know what they're talking about.
2 meetings in 2 different islands, but one idea for connecting them both. The vision for this tunnel between Guernsey and Jersey and then onto France isn't new, but efforts are stepping up to convince people it's worth doing.
Wouldn't it be great if we can solve the ageing demographic, housing, tourism, have really easy, fast, reliable, cheap connectivity between the islands and onto France? It would be transformative for the entire islands. The economic payback that they've had in the Faroe Islands has been more than just about connecting areas. They've doubled GDP over a 10-year period, just by making it easier for people to get from one island to the next.
It's taken 5 years to get to this point. There's still a lot to be worked out, including how to pay for it. Experts who've helped it happen elsewhere say it's worth exploring.
There are precedents across Europe with international connectivity, fixed links between Sweden and Denmark, Denmark and Germany, the Øresund connection, the Fehmarn Belt connection. The outcomes are that we start to look at the feasibility of the project and start testing those assumptions to see whether or not it's viable.
But across the 2 islands, there are 2 clear views on whether it is workable.
Short term, it could make a huge difference to tourism. It could help the 2 islands work together. We've talked about public sectors and hospitals and education and all that.
Very expensive by the sounds of it. It would be good, but I think they've got better priorities that they need to focus on.
Connection to Guernsey, I don't see any benefit to Jersey. Benefit to Guernsey to be able to get to France.
Well, that would be a good idea, but with every decision that Guernsey makes, it'll take a while.
And politicians across the islands still have a lot to figure out.
The way that some of this tunnelling has worked in other parts of the world is through private financing, and we've seen how the return can actually make the payback period relatively short, much shorter than perhaps we would have imagined. So I'm not saying anything's off the table. We don't have any money, but we have to think big.
One way of addressing housing crises, one way of addressing shortage of labour, one way of addressing the intermittent supply of food is to have a fixed link between here and France. But we need to have a proper conversation about that and not just laugh or poo-poo it and just say, it's a ridiculous idea.
Those behind the idea say they're not necessarily asking the states for financial backing, but they do need both Guernsey and Jersey's governments on board to make this happen. Charlie Lenore, BBC Channel Islands News.
Turning to other news, and Jersey's Chief Minister has vowed to reduce the government's spend on consultants. Ministers spent £100 million buying in expertise over 3 years, which has prompted widespread criticism from politicians and the public. More than 200 government projects currently rely on specialists from outside the island. Deputy Lyndon Farnham says he's committed to reducing the bill.
This government will reduce that spend, and I'm giving a commitment now to the taxpayer to ensure that this year we will use consultancy far less, and we will spend less money on consultancy, and we will use consultancy to focus on the key projects.
Guernsey's Health Service has postponed non-urgent surgeries at Princess Elizabeth Hospital because it's full. The hospital's 113 beds have been at capacity for the past fortnight. The state says elective surgeries have been delayed until further notice. So far, about 20 operations have been postponed. Now, police say there's no evidence the fire that destroyed a popular seafront restaurant in St Peter Port was deliberate. With initial investigations into the octopus fire complete, experts have ruled out arson. Anna Saba has this update.
An early hours blaze triggering a multi-service response, but too late to save this waterfront restaurant. With police now ruling out foul play, all that remains is to pick up the pieces. And for the fire service, a time to reflect.
The biggest advice is fire alarm systems, smoke alarm systems. They do save lives and they do save property if we can get the call early enough. The tragic events for Octopus is that the fire alarm system was activating, it was doing its job, but there was nobody there to hear it.
For those on the ground, it was a long shift.
The fire had already been going for roughly an hour, although we didn't know that at the time. So when we arrived, it was a fully developed fire, and we sent our crews in, but they very soon had to withdraw from that building for their own safety. The ceiling materials were coming down, the smoke layer was very, very low, and it was very, very hot, and it became a long and protracted incident.
The Octopus fire marked a weekend in which calls to the fire service doubled, with 3 fires and an oil spill among the call-outs.
This fire in the UK would have been dealt with probably 3 times the number of resources that we dealt with it, and that's due to the hard work of my staff. I've looked back at our statistics, and normally in the same time period we would have about 11 calls. We had 21 incidents. Whole nature of calls, but it was keeping us busy and proving that we're here to make a difference.
There's no time for the dust to settle as crews ready themselves for the next dispatch. Anna Sava, BBC Channel Islands News, Guernsey.
Most people responding to a survey on abortion in Jersey said the reason for getting one should determine how late into a pregnancy it's allowed. Nearly 800 people, mostly women, took part in the government consultation. Most said terminations should be legal at any stage of pregnancy if there are serious risks to the mother or fetus, or it's a result of a rape or incest. A fifth of respondents said they support some abortions for gender selection. The answers will inform proposed changes to Jersey's abortion law, on which states members will vote before the end of this year. Now, Jersey Race Club warns the future of horse racing in the island is in jeopardy because of a lack of professional riders and trainers. The club wants work permit rules relaxed, so the sport's free to hire specially skilled staff from across the world to live and work locally for the racing season. The government says it'll continue to review applications on a case-by-case basis. Emma-Jane Blackman has the story.
It's the most watched spectator sport in Jersey, but the Jersey Race Club says horse racing in the Channel Islands is struggling. There is a lack of professional racing staff, and getting them here is fraught with complications.
Obviously, we're all fully aware on the island of the crisis we have at the moment with staffing anything, but I think racing, because we need specialist people, is in more difficulty than a lot of the industries.
The government insists it is listening. One specialist role, a racing groom, was added to the work permit policy last month, allowing Stuart from Australia to work here for the race season.
So, racing groom, I ride track work in the morning, and then I come back here and help Marky out in the afternoon and feed him and look after him. It takes, 3 months to get a horse up ready to race, fit enough. So, there's a lot of work that goes into it.
Not all roles listed under this occupation will qualify for a skilled work permit, as an applicant must meet the criteria, including the English language requirement, minimum salary and qualifications to fulfil the role.
The Channel Islands Horse Racing Authority says the changes which allowed Stuart to work in Jersey need to be rolled out more widely.
What I would like to see, because this has been, I believe, an individual case, it would be nice to have that applied across the board, so unilaterally, so that other yards that are operating in the island can employ people from outside the common travel area.
And it's not unheard of for regulations to be changed to help professional sport.
We need the government to support and maybe change the rules, as I believe they did with the Jersey Reds, to bring rugby players in when the Reds were expanding. So we need some help on that, really.
For now, though, it seems the future of horse racing in Jersey is rather stuck in a corner, but some feel ministers should take another look. Emma-Jane Blackman, BBC Channel Islands News, Jersey.
Great pictures there. Now, before the weather, a look at a few other stories making the news today. Jersey's Health Department has approached Southampton Hospital for help reducing waiting times to see a skin specialist. While urgent patients tend to be seen within a month, most others wait at least 6 months to see a dermatologist, and more than 100 people have been waiting over a year. Meanwhile, Guernsey's health service plans to outsource autism and ADHD assessments to a UK-based firm to reduce the time families are waiting for diagnosis. HSE says about 250 children are waiting for an assessment, considerably more than the local team has the capacity to see. And people in Alderney have more time to have their say on how the state manages the environment and farming. The Nature and Agricultural Strategy aims to shape future policy on food production and the use of natural resources. The consultation has been extended by a week. Right, let's see what the weather's up to. Here's David Brain with your forecast tonight.
Thank you, Charlie. Good evening. Just out to the west of us is a line of showers that'll just creep a little bit closer this evening, but then move away for tomorrow. So tomorrow is predominantly fine and dry with some hazy sunshine, but increasingly breezy conditions, the story for tomorrow. Out here is quite a complex area of low pressure, several weather fronts wrapped around it. Eventually one of those will get towards us, but not really having much impact through the night ahead and through the day tomorrow. But by the time we get to Friday, one is a little bit closer, so there's a greater chance of seeing a few showers. Notice how many isobars. Quite a keen easterly wind developing over the next 2 days. And then as we move into the weekend, this more active weather system will produce a lot of cloud and produce some more persistent, more widespread rain. All the while it remains quite windy until that area of low pressure gets over us. But it does bring slightly less cold air, so that's the good news to the story, even though it is quite windy. The source of the wind is coming up from the south, coming up from Spain and Portugal. So a few showers may just clip us overnight tonight and then gradually retreat back out into the Atlantic. And then we'll end up with a fair amount of bright weather to start the day tomorrow. 4 to 6 degrees the minimum temperature. This is tomorrow's forecast. There'll always be quite a bit of cloud around first thing, a lot of medium and high level cloud, but the rest of the day is fine and dry, rather windy, and a top temperature of 11 or 12 degrees. Probably not feeling as warm as those temperatures suggest because of that keen easterly wind. And it will be keen, it'll be up at a force 5, possibly 6 around Alderney later in the day. Fair with good visibility. These are our times of high water at St Peter Port. That's at 9:39 and also at 3:39 and 16:17. The outlook is for us to see showers developing from Friday. Have a nice evening. Charlie.
Certainly has been a glorious day. I managed to get out and about, make the most of it. Doesn't look very good though next week though. Right, that is it for the time being. Of course, you can join me and the rest of the late team. Our bulletin is at 10:30 this evening. But for now and the early team, I'll miss you. Good night. Bye-bye.
Your local BBC radio station wants to honour truly remarkable people by recognising their achievements and contribution to life where we